Mortal Kombat Special Forces started off similarly to Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero, with Mortal Kombat series co-creator John Tobias' desire to create story-driven adventure games to center on and expand the plot of the Mortal Kombat series. Mythology Sub-Zero was criticized 3 years prior to Special Forces release, for the gameplay being too difficult and the storyline being too confusing. This led Ed Boon, John Tobias, and the MK team to unfortunately design Special Forces around a dumbed-down difficulty and an uncomplicated and uninteresting storyline centered around Mortal Kombat combatants Jax, Sonya, Kano, and the Black Dragon organization, with Sonya Blade's inclusion ultimately being cut in the final version. Numerous problems during the making of Special Forces resulted in John Tobias and various other staff members to leave Midway Games and eventually create Studio Gigante to create the fighting game Tao Feng Fist of the Lotus in 2003 and professional wrestling game WWE WrestleMania 21 in 2005. Both were released for the original Xbox console, and both were critically panned. Studio Gigante closed their doors in 2005, shortly after WWE WrestleMania 21's release. Due to the departures, Special Forces was rushed to completion in 2000 with only a PlayStation release, with the N64 and Sega Dreamcast versions being cancelled. The released PlayStation game was quickly panned, being considered the worst Mortal Kombat game ever made. In 2013, Games Radar also ranked it as the 41st worst game ever made. But is it truly worth its reputation as the game that temporarily killed the Mortal Kombat franchise? No. That award goes to Threshold Entertainment for raping and exploiting the Mortal Kombat series from 1995 to 2009, a topic which we may get into at a later date. Special Forces is almost universally remembered as terrible, and when you compare it to the Mortal Kombat series as a whole, up to that point and beyond, it is terrible. But when you compare it to other Sony PlayStation games around the same time, the graphics, gameplay, and issues are similar to almost any other 3D game of that time. Games considered to be greatest hits of the Sony PlayStation, Driver, Gran Turismo, Resident Evil, Silent Hill, Tomb Raider, all suffer from the same problems. The Sony PlayStation's lack of anti-aliasing and the unergonomic design of the PlayStation. Problems that persist with the PS2, PS3, PSP, and the PSV. They eventually got around to adding anti-aliasing to the PS4. However, they're still using the same basic controller design from 1994's PS1 controller, a design that hasn't changed much in 24 years as of this narration's creation. But again, a topic best left for another video. Now, even though I think that this game gets judged unfairly, that still doesn't make it a good game. People criticize it for looking bad. You know, the graphics, everybody complains about the graphics and the gameplay. Gameplay is adequate. It's not perfect by any means, but once you get the hang of it, you can do stuff. The game is beatable. The graphics you can overlook because of the age of the game, so it's a product of its time. It's the main problem of the game is it's boring. They took a series that's based on magic, sorcery, otherworldly type stuff, and they said, okay, well let's pull that back a little bit. Let's make it more based in reality. At least at first, in the first couple levels, and it just comes off as really boring. Not very interesting. It's a story that didn't need to be told, which is why they didn't go there in the first Mortal Kombat game. Jax, he's an okay character, just doesn't appeal to me. Not one of my favorite characters. Jax was originally planned for Mortal Kombat 1, but he would have been a totally different character. He would have been a white riot cop, which that character eventually became Stryker. which actually I think the striker name they were planning on using that for MK1 until somebody decided, hey, we need a female character, and then Sonya was created. So yeah, the character, the original Jax character, he was passed over in the first Mortal Kombat game, and yet they decided to base this game about him and Sonya, with which Sonya was actually cut. There's some footage floating around on YouTube of beta versions of Special Forces, possibly for the N64 version, which contain Sonya. And so yeah, earlier I was talking about how Ed Boon and John Tobias, like they made the decision to dumb the game down. Well, actually, it's a lot more complicated than that, because Ed Boon in interviews has basically said that he had no involvement in this game whatsoever, and I believe it, because Ed Boon is more, he did the fighting game engine for the Mortal Kombat fighting games. This is a different game, so obviously he had a different team working on it, because this wasn't his forte. I can't remember the name of the one dude they had. He had an odd last name, but he was really good with 3D rendering, and I believe he had a big part in the making of this game. But yeah, so originally there was going to be a lot more, like there was a level where there was like a crowd of people, and you were walking amongst the pedestrians, and there was like a city streets and stuff, and there was more, like there was a solid foundation for an idea by John Tobias, and when John Tobias left, that game, the beta was basically scrapped, and they started from scratch. I have no idea why. If it was me personally, if there was a game that this was John's baby, so Ed was more concerned with the gaming department instead of the storyline, which we'll talk about that later. But what ended up happening was when John left, if it was me, I would have just said, okay, well, let's not do this right now. Let's cancel it. Let's work on this at a later date, which they actually did. Shaolin Monks came out 5 years later, so they were able to make it a good adventure game. But this one, it's like one team member has this idea, and then he leaves, and they're like, okay, well, let's finish it, but instead of finishing it, they redo it. It doesn't make a lot of sense why, unless they were contractually obligated to make the game. During this time, well, I think it started in '95. Threshold Entertainment, they got the rights to the movies and TV shows, and the cartoon, like the first Mortal Kombat movie, it was enjoyable. It had its issues. Now it's regarded as a failure, but looking back on it, it was a wild success, and like it had a lot of good stuff going for it. It was a rocky foundation, because when you screw with the storyline, of MK, like, you know, the first Mortal Kombat movie, and I'm kind of getting off subject, but we'll come back to we're coming back around. When you go off of the storyline of the first Mortal Kombat game in the first movie, they basically took elements from the first two MK games, and then in the next movie, you know, the Mortal Kombat Annihilation, that should have been the Mortal Kombat 2 storyline, but instead they said, okay, well, MK3 and MK Trilogy, or Ultimate MK3 and Trilogy, they're the more recent games, so we need to include characters from that, because that's our newest game, or at least Threshold was doing this, which they had this whole thing where they thought that they owned Mortal Kombat, period. They thought that they owned it, which is just stupid, and maybe I might do a video where I talk more about that, which I guess, I mean, I have time to kill. You know, we're at 11 minutes and this is a 2-hour video, so I might go into it. I don't know, but yeah, so when you have a rocky foundation of the first Mortal Kombat movie where certain storyline elements have been altered from the games, for example, Liu Kang killing Sub-Zero in the first MK movie, I really enjoyed the first MK movie, but you know, as a whole, when I watched it, I was like that doesn't make any sense, because you know, Sub-Zero's death in MK1, that was, you know, the whole point of the younger Sub-Zero coming back in MK2, which, you know, he's supposed to have a vendetta against Scorpion, which it mirrors the MK1 Sub-Zero's animosity with Scorpion. But now you have a situation where, okay, Liu Kang killed the first Sub-Zero, and now the younger brother's like, oh, you killed my brother, let me help you, and so that created storyline problems, and then you have an opportunity to have this really cool character be in Mortal Kombat Annihilation, and they don't use. He's there for 5 minutes and then he's gone, and then you have characters like Ermac and Rain showing up. Ermac's in the entire movie up until the end, doesn't have much to say or really do. You know, you have Motaro, who looks kind of cool. The effects were cool, but he just didn't come off as being this hulking monster. Shiva looked good for the most part. Ends up being squashed without a fight, you know, other than that little tussle with Motaro, and Rain's death being recycled. No. It was Rain died, and then they used his death animation for when Baraka dies, or random Tarkatan, you know, because there's like 3 or 4 of them, so you're like, you know, and going back to the first MK movie, when Reptile shows up, you know, that whole thing where he's like a literal reptile, which at the time didn't make sense because he was supposed to be camouflaged as a ninja. That was the whole point of, you know, him being a ninja, was to conceal this, you know, to conceal this fact that he was a raptor. And, you know, storyline purposes, Reptile is supposed to be the only one of his race. More raptors show up in Annihilation and in the TV series, and it was basically because Kazanoff or whoever was in charge was like, you know, oh, this is going to be our our foot soldiers, our grunt men. You know, we can dress 3 or 4 guys up in this outfit and portray them as like 6 characters or whatever.
I just had a little fire to snuff out.
So that was their cheap way.
Well, Jax, the deal is these
And eventually
more in common than we thought. Turns out that they
the
are
actual
all
Mortal Kombat
card-carrying
series
members of
started to
Kano's
follow that
little
pattern
club,
with
Black
the
Dragon. Isn't that the
Tarkatans,
game that
Baraka's
gave you so
people.
much trouble some time ago?
Sure was.
So they,
Any sign of
they're
BSKP?
making
No. Our
similar
troops have swept the
mistakes,
area,
which
but they seem
Tarkatans
to have
I can
fire.
understand
We
more
were hoping you would be
than
able to
actual
track them down,
raptors.
being the man on the inside.
There's an exit ahead of me. I'll see
Because
where
you
that
have, you
takes
know,
me. I'll update you when
as
I
far
can.
as raptors go,
Be
you have
careful don't
reptile,
scratch those
chameleon,
big metal arms
and
of
then
yours. Gemini out.
you know the female chameleon, and then you have the male chameleon who is not even confirmed to be a raptor. It's not 100% confirmed. I mean, it might as well be, with his armor being similar to the female chameleons in Armageddon, but so yeah, like Kazanov, Threshold Entertainment, they made these dumb decisions with the movies and yeah, back to Special Forces. It's like some of those decisions were impacting the games. If you notice, Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero and Mortal Kombat Mortal Kombat Special Forces, their logo font on the games is the same font as the movies, as the Mortal Kombat movies, and so it's almost like I don't know if Midway was trying to be like, okay, well let's reference the movie because it's really hot right now, or if Threshold was like, well, use our logo because, you know, for whatever reason, like they're trying to be pushy, like, oh, it's the new official logo, and yeah, Threshold, you know, they took control of MortalKombat.com for several years, and it, you know, it was all like they would present it as a Threshold product, and it would be like they just kept pushing all this crap. Like, the first movie was good, second movie was awful. The TV series Conquest was pretty bad. It had like 2 good episodes, and then the cartoon, Defenders of the Realm, I think it had like 2 good episodes. But then Threshold was like, oh yeah, it's our product and it's our Mortal Kombat. But they were like ruining it. And then they had the Mortal Kombat, what was it? The live tour, which anytime you hear live tour, you should just assume that it's going to be crap. But the crap level that it was taken to a new extreme. Like, it was so bad. And then they had characters from the live tour. They would have this web show, and I don't remember the name of the web show. And this is pre-YouTube, right? And they would have random fights. They'd have like I think there was one where like Sonya fought Ermac, and it was like some random actress dressed sorta like Sonya, and then Ermac in like a MK1 movie outfit, and it was terrible. It was and cheap green screen effects. It was like one of my friends, he compared it to it was just about money. They would shit this stuff together and then just get money off of it, and that's the way they treated the Mortal Kombat series. Threshold is just a money making racket. And right here, you see me trying to use the sniping ability in Special Forces, and the controller I'm using does not have analog sticks. I guess I should have used the Xbox 360 controller for this. I didn't think I'd need it, but I don't know how much different the aiming process would have been with the 360 controller. It was utter garbage with just the digital controls. But yeah, so yeah, around this time, Mortal Kombat was at a low, and it was because Threshold was like, hey, let's throw all this crap out here. This is when you had the G.I. Joe Mortal Kombat figures, which I still have mine. I think it's cool to have, but just the quality of them is not where I wanted, where I would prefer it to be. And it's just cheap, and they would re-release they would re-release the characters. They'd have like different paint jobs and release them as like, oh, this is the movie version of the characters, and you're like, it's just a paint job, like I don't want two Sub-Zeros. Give me one good Sub-Zero figures, and yeah, there's been good Mortal Kombat figures made, but it just seemed like back in the day, the ones that I saw in the store were those god-awful G.I. Joe knockoffs, and I just hated that. And yeah, so Threshold, you saw the product placement everywhere, and it was just everything was cheap, and Street Fighter. You saw Street Fighter doing this similarly, but with Street Fighter it was different because I would assume that the creators had more control over what was being made. They had a cartoon series that was made by the same people that made the Mortal Kombat cartoon series. There was actually one. There was a part where there was a storyline going on where there was like this glowing orb thing that would show up in these cartoons, and it did crossovers of several cartoons, including Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, and there was another one that was on my mind. Savage Dragon, I think is the name of it. I could be wrong. So like, yeah, there was this thing that connected the Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter cartoons, but it just seemed like the Street Fighter cartoons, it seemed like that they were just put together better, or at least they had. It seemed like the creators had more control over it, and that's just from an outsider looking in on the Street Fighter series, because I tried to watch it a little bit, and it just didn't make any sense to me. If Street Fighter, the whole series, it's just really confusing when you try to read about it and try to learn about it. It just seems like it doesn't go anywhere. Ryu's been training, or however you pronounce his name. He's been training for like his entire existence. Like, that's his storyline. It's like, I'm training, and I have Akuma has beef with me, and then like walking in the distance, and that's it. Like, that's all you need to know. But Mortal Kombat, it deserved better from Threshold Entertainment, and so yeah, after this game, which was rushed, like with all the problems during the development of the game. It was rushed. It was sent out, and didn't get good reviews at all. Didn't deserve good reviews. And so they, let's see, that was 2000, and they took a 2-year hiatus. And I remember during this period, it felt like forever. Let me see, I got some notes here. I thought it did. Because, let's see. So, Mythology Sub-Zero, came out in 97. And then Special Forces was in 2000. I didn't have a PlayStation at the time. And the N64 version got canceled, of course. So, Deadly Alliance didn't get released until 2002. So you're looking at a 5-year hiatus. And, Mortal Kombat 1 through Trilogy and all the games. So that started in 92. So that there was like a 5-year period where Mortal Kombat was just hot. And then there was 5 years of like hardly anything. And somewhere along those lines, because I can't remember when Annihilation was released in the TV series. I think the TV series 96, 97. I could be wrong about that. But so yeah, there was no real games released for me for like 5 years. And it was after my graduation, and everybody was playing Halo. So I went out and I bought a original Xbox, and I was loving it. And then when Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance was announced, I was like, holy crap! Oh, hit the mic. I was like, oh my gosh! Like, I have to get this. I reserved it. I think I reserved it. As soon as the announcement was made, I went to, it wasn't GameStop, it was Software Etc. And I reserved it. And I think I had it on reserve for like almost a year. And I had it paid off. One of the games, I can't remember which one it was. It was either Deadly Alliance or Deception. I had it paid off so long that when I went to pick it up, there had been a tax change, and so I thought that I had it paid off, and I actually owed like 15 cents because of some stupid tax change or something like that. And I was like,
"You want some fries with that?
Like,
With that whoop
crap.
ass?"
Like what? Because I, knowing me, I probably didn't have my wallet on me at the time, because that's just how it was. I thought I had it covered. I think probably the ex that I was with at the time, maybe she paid it. I don't know. But yeah, like there was that long period where Mortal Kombat was just it was just crap. And this game, I don't consider this game part of it. It gets blamed a lot for the downfall of Mortal Kombat during like early 2000s, but I think it was an attempt to at least appease fans and be like, here's something, here's something. Even though it's a turd, wrap a turd in a bow or whatever. So yeah, like the movies. Around this time too, wrestling became really big, and I got into wrestling. So I remember like. Well, not, it was like 96 is when the whole NWO stuff started happening. So I started getting into wrestling, and so that was like an appeasement. Of course, I got really into wrestling, but Mortal Kombat was always my my go-to thing. And so like as this 5-year hiatus is going on, there was a lot of stuff going on in my life, but wrestling, I got into that, and yeah, like that's when I really, I met my circle of friends in like high school, and so it's like I didn't have Mortal Kombat, so I was kind of finding outside sources to kind of appease me, make me happy, and it was a really good time, but it just seemed like I kept thinking, where's the next game? I want to figure out what happened to everybody. So yeah, like I didn't end up playing Special Forces until 3 years ago. So there's like almost a 20-year hiatus of waiting to play this game, and it wasn't as bad as what I thought it was, but of course, I was expecting complete crap, and it is playable, it is manageable. There was another game that I wanted to play for a really long time. Tips and Tricks magazine. I don't remember the number. I could pull it out right now, but I'm not going to. Tips and Tricks magazine. It had there was a Mortal Kombat. It was a Mortal Kombat 2 issue. It's the one that had a bunch of codes in it that I didn't know about. The endurance test from Mortal Kombat 2 for the Super Nintendo version. But there was a preview for this game. It was called Way of the Warrior for the 3DO, I believe. And I looking at the screenshots, I was like, this looks amazing. This looks really good. And it was, you could tell that they were designing it to be a Mortal Kombat clone or killer. And I was like, man, I want to play that really bad. And I didn't play that game until 20 years later. And it was just utter crap, like terrible. Like, it was, ugh. And those guys that created the game would later go on to create the Crash Bandicoot series for the PlayStation. And so I actually I do video game, like fighting game move lists. And I actually contacted one of the creators of Way of the Warrior, and I just said, hey, I want to make a move list for this game, but there's not a lot of information available, and I basically asked if there was any official move list released for Way of the Warrior, like a complete move list. And I wasn't expecting a response, but I did get one, and I don't remember his name, but one of the creators was like, yeah, I don't remember a move list, I don't remember an official move list ever being released for that game. And I was just thinking to myself, like, these guys made this game they wanted it to be. I mean, you could tell that they wanted it to be something, even though it was kind of a joke. And it just surprised me that they did not have any kind of documentation. Which, I mean, he might have just been lazy, or he might not have had access to those files. I mean, he might have had it written down in a notepad file on like a Windows 95 laptop, and it might have died. So I mean, but he did say that he didn't think that it was a new list for Warrior Warrior, and I'm still practicing with that, and I'm still working on that. I've been working on it for years. I've got some kind of mental block against it for some reason. I don't know why. But you know, so that game, 20-year period where I wasn't able to play it. I get to play it, and I'm like, yeah, this is crap. Special Forces, a 20-year gap of not being able to play it. I finally play it, and I'm like, you know, I'm expecting garbage, and I'm like, it's not as bad as what people say. Hold on 1 second. So again, not a terrible game, but just boring. I had the opportunity to redo this playthrough to kind of get less glitchiness, less lag, or whatever. And I just couldn't be bothered to actually play the game again, because there's no point. Once you beat the game, you're able to play the game again. Like you get access to cheats, and you can play the game again. And the cheats give you like more weapons, more ammo. I think you can have all of your attacks. They can start off with all of your combos and whatnot. Just wasn't worth it to me to play the game again. This recording, I believe it was my third playthrough of the game, which is about 2 playthroughs too many. So right there, I had some trouble aiming at him. It suffers like Mythology's Sub-Zero had really good design as far as like graphics and whatever. It was really crappy to play, but it had a really good design. Like it looked good for a PlayStation game. This game, it plays okay. It plays adequately. But as far as the graphics and everything, it's just boring. Like the floor pattern and the walls, it's just repetitive, and they use that to their advantage by making like maze-like environments. But who really wants to play that? Like where you just run around and get stuck, and have to figure out where you're going. And they don't include a map. Like who really wants to play that? Especially nowadays, it was different when that was the norm. But now games tend to hold everybody's hand and walk you through it, which there needs to be some kind of balance, because I don't like I don't like to be walked through a game by the game, but in a game like this, I would have loved some kind of direction, some kind of like, oh hey, go here, you know, and do that. So there needs to be some kind of balance, like even like a Saints Row or GTA like waypoint indicator, something like that. Which I think Shaolin Monks had that. I don't remember. It's been so long since I played that. Aja, the character that only shows up in Special Forces, has not showed up anywhere else. Had potential to be an interesting character because of the sword weapons, but does not show up at all anywhere else. These orbs, if they hit you, kind of stuck in place. Now, I will give Special Forces some credit for its bosses. The bosses were really, I had fun with them. Sometimes you could like trick the bosses, you know, overpower them very easily. And then other times they would rip you through. So here I'm trying to snipe her. And her health. I'm just trying different tactics to see what does the most damage. So, when she first appears, she makes it really difficult to attack. It locks you up. But once you get that open, you kind of and a little bit of slowdown. Works that I've managed. Difficulty I'm playing this on. It showed it at the beginning of the video, but I think it's playing it on a harder difficulty here for this one, just because of the chaos of some of the enemies. If you get shot by an enemy, your health
Jax
goes
to Gemini,
down
do you
drastically.
copy?
Yes, Jax. I'm here. Any news?
Oh yeah, I just got in a close shave with a twin-bladed honey. Too bad I had to take her out though. That Tazia sure was a looker.
So we're not even at the halfway
Jax,
point
the mission,
of the video.
remember?
And already I'm like,
If you can manage to concentrate for a little bit, Jax, I've got some news for you. It turns out that the Black Dragon has tried to put on a respectable face.
basically everything.
One of the thugs let it spill that the Black Dragon is using one of the corporate buildings downtown as a cover for their base of operations, but he won't say which one.
This game.
Well, Tazia sure wanted to stop me from going any further, so I've got a feeling I must be very close to their hideout. I'll contact you the next chance I get. Jax out.
Gemini. Gemini shows up again in Special Forces. Not Special. Shaolin Monks. You hear her talking to Jax at one point, and I believe she's in MK9, or maybe I think she's in MK9 at one point. or she's referenced by Jackson MKX. I could be wrong about that. Again, Jax not being one of my favorite people. And in this stage, you had to read license plates for some reason. You're looking for a passcode, and the license plates have some kind of encoded message or something like that.
Yeah, thought so.
So yeah, if you get surrounded by more than one person, your best bet is to use the ground pound, because there's no other way to really fight your way out of it. Because if you start fighting somebody, and somebody else comes up, like, they will start attacking you too. Which luckily they fixed that for Shaolin monks. It's not quite as bad. I think I'm missing one car maybe. I don't know what I'm doing. I couldn't tell you when this playthrough. Couldn't tell you when I actually did it. 2013. So it's been a little while. And yeah, I just couldn't be bothered to play it again. It's just terrible. And probably like, why did you decide to make a video about this game that you hate or whatever? Like, it's Mortal Kombat, and I love the series. This game seems to be the one that people haven't played or don't play, and I just wanted to talk about it because it's, you know, it's the one that people don't talk about. You know, with good reason. I mean, I've pretty much covered everything. That key code for that door, or maybe the one ahead if there is one, it's random. I think it's random. I think it changes occasionally, like the number changes. So you have to check the cars. You can't just go up to the door and just put in the number, because it changes. Which it's good for. That would be good for, like, if it was a game that was actually worth playing. But here it's just a detriment, because you're like, you just want to get through it. Just want to be like, okay, I get it. You know, just get me out of here. So basically, there's an order. Like there's a number in each license plate, and whichever number it is, like you basically just have to take the number out and put it in order, which is so stupid. Whatevs. do a playthrough with. Like, I need Nathan or Branscombe or somebody here. Like, when I'm actually playing something, get them to kind of give me something to go off of, especially in a crappy game like this. I'm sure they'd have something to laugh at or point at, you know, maybe something that I missed. I like that this game takes place. Now this area I kind of liked because it was a throwback to like that old MK1 style, like just some of the designs on the wall. At least that's how I felt about it. It was kind of like, it reminded me of that, even though it was not really connected to the first game at all. It looked better than some of the stages had looked. Looked like it had more uniqueness to it. More thought. And yeah, I like that Jax has his metal arms, and this game is supposed to take place before MK1, and then the metal arms didn't show up until MK3, which that whole concept of the arms is just, it was just a dumb idea. Like what they did to Jax, like they changed up his moves in MK3. They totally like changed his character, and it's like, yeah, he's more interesting, but you lose that sense of realism, like that sense of canon, I guess you would call it. Because in MK2 he had this like this wave attack where he basically like just sling his arm and this white, you know, wave like projectile would come out. And of course I had to do it. You know, I had to show this chick taking a shower in a bikini for whatever reason. Like, why are you there? Are they supposed to be like Black Dragon prostitutes? Like, what's going on?
You want some fries with that whoop ass?
Gotta love these really dark corridors. So many polygons. I'm surprised I don't have a notepad just like drawing circles on the notepad just so I can see some form of, you know, like non-polygon looking crap. Even the layout is like just big rectangles. Just follow the empty rectangles. It's like when they're designing rooms, what do you want in this rectangle? And like, it couldn't hurt them to put in like some furniture or something. Either that or make the hallways a little bit smaller so it doesn't look like there's just
You want some fries with that whoop
giant
ass?
nothingness. I don't know. Maybe there's a reason for it. Other than just getting you to play the game longer. But yeah, that level is not as, it doesn't take people to play it, you know, as long as we thought it would. So make them hallways bigger. Yeah, like this game, when you compare it to like I said earlier, of course, Silent Hill, one of my favorite games. I'd love to do a playthrough of it one day. But if you look at Silent Hill, I mean, Silent Hill just had really good textures, and when I mean really good, because everything looks crappy on the PlayStation as far as like textures and stuff. When you really like get to looking at the textures, everything looks bad. But it was just interesting. It was interesting to look at with shots and stuff on the outside. This with all the concrete and stuff, it just looks ugly. So again, you know, it looks ugly, but it's still typical. I mean, it's typical of like that PlayStation style. I mean, you could see somebody playing this game and say, "Oh yeah, this is on PlayStation." You can tell. And that's one reason why I decided to play on an emulator, because it actually, you get more anti-aliasing. There's less like stretching or graphics or stretching the textures. I forget the technical term. Oh man. Oh. This game was like putting me to sleep. And that's the sad part. I could sit here and I could take a nap, and you could hear 30 minutes of snoring, and I'd still have 30 more minutes to cover. Oh gosh. Oh man. So yeah, this is the level with Jarek from MK4 fame. Jarek basically being a black dragon alongside Kano. Jarek came about because originally Kano was supposed to be in MK4. Originally a lot of characters were supposed to be in MK4. And they decided, well, we want different characters. So, or we want new characters, I guess. So Kano was replaced by Jarek. Basically had all of his weapons, all of his moves and whatever. Basically like a carbon copy. He even has fatality in MK4 where he uses like laser eyes, which doesn't make sense at all. So yeah, Kano became Jarek. Katana became Tanya, and Noob Sabat became Reiko. Or Rico, however you want to pronounce it. Jarek is he's like a one of Kano's underlings, which works out for the game and Jarek's personality, but it's kind of a waste of a character in a way. And he shows up in Armageddon. He's got some different moves, you know, to make him kind of unique or whatever. But he's still lame. They changed his haircut because the haircut that he had in MK4 was just you know, just lame looking. They changed it again, but it didn't really do much to help him. Can't think of the technical term of what it made him look like, but it didn't help at all. And then he had that. They gave him like this move that was kind of a ripoff of Scorpion Spear, and I'm like, why did you give that to him? I guess they were running out of ideas at that point. So I could have skipped all this, but I figured I was gonna need the med packs later, so I took the time. You know, you don't really need the detonator stuff, so I figured they were worth using to get items that I was gonna use later on. You think this is boring? Like, you wait till the last level. It's insane. It's insanely boring. It's like they got to the end and they're like, oh, what should we put here? Just make a maze. Just make it as vague and confusing as possible. You know, they wanted to stretch it out and make it real tough or whatever. Similar to the final level on mythologies, which I need to be working on a video about that. Ugh. I've been busy doing other stuff. Been meaning to do this video for some time, and I didn't know how crazy it would be this. Just because there's really nothing to talk about this game, other than how disappointing it was. But again, not a bad game per se, just boring. Because it is playable, it is beatable, but you get nothing out of it. Like, there's no feeling of accomplishment. It's just a feeling of, oh, I'm glad that's finished. How much damage he's doing? It's insane.
You want some fries with that whoop ass?
It's like Jax is supposed to be.
You want some fries with that whoop ass?
Most of the Mortal Kombat characters, in terms of like his brute strength. But Jarek technically is supposed to be like a low-level character. Jax has metal arm augments, and he's doing less damage per hit than Jarek, which I understand why gameplay-wise, but I'm just saying.
I just transmitted my location coordinates to you via the Black Dragon's comm link. Have you received them yet?
That's affirmative on the pickup location, Jax. And it's about time. What's it take for a girl to get a phone call? Did you happen to run into any more of Kano's henchmen?
Nothing I couldn't handle. Just some punk with a sharp toy. Gemini, I'm going to upload the coordinates from a map I found. Seems like Kano is up to something big. I'm gonna have to take a little trip and meet up with him at the lost city of Xinjiang.
ETA on air transport pickup is 5 minutes. Next time, Jax, don't wait so long to make contact. I was getting a little worried. A woman doesn't like to be kept waiting. Gemini out.
Okay. At an hour and 6 minutes, we have hit the halfway point. Oh my god. Okay. So in my second playthrough of this level, and again, this is like my third playthrough. Second time I played through this level, I didn't have any trouble out of these guys whatsoever when I was using the sniper rifle. For whatever reason, during this playthrough, I had so many problems. So many problems with this. This was not a good playthrough by any means of this level. And I am using just the D-pad to aim, so that's probably part of the reason why I'm having some issues. It takes me longer to aim than it does for the computer to aim at me. Go figure, right? And look, that explosion's like nowhere near close to me. Okay, so if I remember correctly, there should be two guys on another bridge up ahead. Nope, we've already passed them. Originally, I would use the sniper rifle to try to take them out. Maybe up here. Right here. And again, see, like, it just takes me too long to aim. And of course I'm trying to get a headshot. When you're aiming, you can't move while you're aiming. So basically, if they decide to shoot at you while you're aiming, you're sitting duck. Gosh. Point blank. Yeah, I just said screw it. Just run through it. Don't even bother me. It's not really how I like to do it, but the game was not working with me. And whatever designer it was that decided, hey, let's just give these guys rocket launchers. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate that. So yeah, I'm aiming at the guy in front of me. The guy behind me decides to start shooting at me like it's... Now this level, I actually, I watched playthroughs, and then I would play through it myself, and I recorded my playthrough, and I actually drew out a little map, and of this place because it's kind of confusing. So I drew out a map, and I marked a path, like the path that you have to go, because there's certain doors. There's certain doors that you need keys for, and then there's certain doors like this that you have to use a detonator to open. And unless you knew where they were, like, it was almost impossible. And yeah, this emerald. These emerald pickups were a lifesaver on this level because where it was so dark you couldn't see anything, and the emeralds glow, and it kind of gives you a light around you and kind of lets you see more, which is great. Now you see some of the elements of Tomb Raider coming in, some of the puzzles. Of course, Tomb Raider being much better game than this. If I could find a copy of Tomb Raider 1, I'd love to do a playthrough of it, but maybe one day. I find a lot of my games at flea markets for like practically nothing. I like to get deals on games. I don't like to pay full price. I like to find deals on stuff. It was easier to find games, say like 10, 11 years ago. You could find games for really good prices, and now where people are collecting, and more people know about collections and looking prices up on eBay or whatever, the prices have went up. And so now games have been jacked up quite a bit. You know, when I bought Silent Hill for PlayStation, I paid $10 for it, I think, off eBay, and that was right before the movie came out. And the first Silent Hill movie came out, and I remember thinking, oh man, you know, the movie's come out, I better grab that game before it goes up in price. I found it for $10. Everybody else had jacked up their prices to like $100 and some. And this one person on eBay, I guess, just didn't get the memo, and they still had a price that was affordable. lot of slowdown. There's not a lot of action on the screen with it. I'm getting some major slowdown for whatever reason. So yeah, if you ever decide to play this train wreck of a game, one thing to keep in mind, the enemies have health bars. So if you see the health bar show up, you know an enemy's close. So even if he's not on screen, okay, right there. Of course, I was trying to use the sniper rifle. Not very smart. I don't remember if you can fall off this or not. I don't think you can, but I don't remember exactly. I might have fallen off once or twice. Huh. So good design of the level. As far as like, I mean, it looks cool and it looks interesting, but it's confusing. Like you have no idea where you're going. And if I'm thinking correctly, the altars that you have to put the stones on, like it's the name of the princess, like whatever their name starts with, like you use the stone that has the same letter as the princess name. It's just kind of, it makes sense, but it's kind of dumb at the same time. I think at this point I'm slightly lost, but since I saw that, I know that I'm, you know, I know where I'm at now. I should. Again, no map system. I think I'm looking for cracks in there. I don't know. At this point. I think you just radio Gemini and be like, where do I go? Queen Rihanna. Free life. I don't know why they just didn't say extra life. A free life. That's just. Eh. man.
Sucker.
Yeah, I remember that. The dude just stood there like he didn't see me or he didn't know what to do. Exit level. I don't remember much about this level. I think it was pretty straightforward, but so there is a climb mechanic, but there's no jump mechanic in the game. Not to my knowledge. Are they supposed to be Black Dragon? I like the look of this place. It's, you know, again, it's very open and vague and boring, but it's a little more interesting.
Thought so.
Or it looks more interesting than some of the other levels. And just unlocked a new combo. The game does have some sort of level up system. But it doesn't really play into your favor at all, which I guess most level up systems don't. They're there to kind of limit your progress, I guess, or maybe give you a sense of accomplishment, unlocking something that you should have had to begin with. Oh yeah, sniper cartridge. That was more than a cartridge. That was like the whole rifle. Nice. Three enemies. Camera angle is just terrible. If you see me using special moves, that's basically when I feel like I either have no, like I have no option and I have to do it, or else I'm gonna die. Like, just hit the wall behind me, and then I think I hit the wall right beside me. Maybe he did. Sure. It's like, why does this room even exist? What's the purpose? That guy just standing there. Like, I think it's bad on me because it's so boring. The guy's in the game and he's falling asleep. He's like, oh, waiting on Jax to come over here. Oh, I made myself yawn. He's like, waiting on Jax to come over here and kill me, put me out of my misery. Who are we fighting? Trimmer! And this guy caused such a thing back in the day because he's basically just a different colored Scorpion. I mean, he's basically Scorpion. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, it's not yellow, it's brown, which it looks yellow. But he eventually made his appearance as DLC in Mortal Kombat X, like years later. Just a bad. Makes you wonder what was going through their mind at the time, like if they wanted Scorpion to actually be there, or what, you know, if they're like, if he was like his own thing like the entire time, or what exactly he's gonna be. So I just hit him with a rocket, and his health is not going down at all. I'm trying to hit him, but he's moving. Getting frustrated. I'm wasting ammo. And it's doing like nothing to him at all. I'm trying to snipe him. Or no. He's trying to hit the rock. It's finding their pattern, getting in, getting that first attack, and then just continuing to attack. So now I'm in. I don't know what this game's trying to tell you. You can't.
You want some fries with that whoop ass?
I don't know what it's trying to tell you about that.
You want some fries with that whoop ass? You want some fries with that whoop ass?
I would love it. They haven't made a 3D adventure game since Shaolin Monks, and I would love for somebody to just be like, oh, we need a first-person shooter game, you know, and kind of do
what
something.
What is your current status, Jax?
You know, like a Call of Duty.
You're not going to believe this.
Oh yeah, we need a
Kano has found an ancient gateway. It appears to be some sort of portal to another dimension. God only knows where it's going to take me.
Other types of games.
What? Are you out of your
they
mind?
could do an RPG. I'd love to see BioWare or
you
somebody
can't be thinking about going through that portal.
help them
It could be
make
a trap. You
an
might
action
not be
RPG
able to
for
get
Mortal
back.
Kombat. That would be great. It would never happen, but
There's
I'd
no
love
time
to
to wait, Gemini. Knowing Kano, this must be a means to his dream of world domination.
I just noticed that
This is a risk I've got to take.
capital letters in this font, or that they
You must have a
use capital
cast iron
letters.
head to match your arms. This is clearly a suicide mission. We need to get our experts over there to assess the situation. This is one ride even you're not big enough for, hero. I can't let you go in there alone.
Gemini, I'm really touched by this show of concern. People are gonna start talking, you know.
You are impossible. Don't you realize that our communications will be cut off? Our satellite systems weren't made for interdimensional travel.
Look, Gemini, there's no time to wait for the backup. I got this far on my own, and I am right on Kano's heels. My sole concern is to stop him from executing his plan and to bring him to justice. Look, don't worry your pretty little head.
30 more minutes.
I promise I will bring you back something nice.
I think this is the last level.
Just make sure you bring yourself back, and we'll talk from there. Gemini out.
Please God, let it be the last level. Save game. There's no saving this game. There's nothing that can help it. You just have to experience it. Oh. Okay. Why does Outworld have to be like all these giant open spaces? And Deception and I think Armageddon, they both had this element where in the conquest modes or whatever, there would be areas where there's just ginormous blank like drops in space. Like, why? Did they do that on purpose? Like, is Outworld supposed to be like just a bunch of? This just looks like stone, like just floating randomly. Like, was that a purpose? You know, was that to make it more difficult? Was that a design choice? Is that supposed to be what Outworld's like? Like, why? King Kang, King Sung, and it's like Liu Kang and Shang Tsung. Is that some kind of reference? Is that supposed to what does that mean? Liu Kang's from Earthrealm. Shang Tsung is actually from Earthrealm too. So what, you know, originally. So what does that mean? Is that just supposed to be like, well, there's a reference to these two characters? Like, that doesn't make sense. Why you would want to do that? I don't know. And what I'm attempting to do combos that launch them up into the air, so that possibly I can knock them off the edge and not have to deal with them anymore.
Get some.
I think there's one part of the level where you actually have to fall off of a high ledge to get to a low ledge that you can't reach any other way. Like a leap of faith. And it's just okay, so these guys are still Black Dragon members. I saw the Black Dragon logo on his back. Like, I can understand a couple Black Dragon members, but to be like the only enemy, just I'm trying to look. It's like looking out into the I'm still here. I'm just like. Trying to imagine what was going on in their heads. Oh yeah, and the teleporters, the portals. Boom, headshot. It doesn't feel like a Mortal Kombat game with the guns. And yet, I'm glad that they're there for certain purposes. It's just a very different game. Boom, headshot. Okay. Not for sure what happened there. Okay. Here's the part where you have to fall down, I think. And I really like the concept of having certain items that glow, and then when you get them, it's like you're glowing. You know, you're putting off the light. That was kind of a cool idea. Especially as dark as the game is. I'm basically like, where am I going?
Yeah, thought so. Excellent.
I'd like to draw out a map of this area. Just to see how crazy the thing will be. was a guy that he managed to take I think the PC version or maybe the PlayStation version of Doom, and he made a program that would create a map of the level and like show you where all the monsters were and like the whole layout of the level in like a 3D format. And I was talking to him and I was like, man, I wish you could do that for like all games. Of course, he gave me this long speech about like how each game is different, uses different formats, and I get that. But it would be really cool if you could, you know, just pop in a game, run a program, and just say, "Oh, here's a map of this level." That would be great. How do you keep track of this? I'm trying to look around. I'm trying to get more of an idea of where I'm at. This place is just so confusing. Playing all these hard games, I need to find something that's just mind-numbingly simple and just play that and just this is just, it's insane. I'm working on doing some walkthroughs of some, or not really walkthrough, but like playthroughs of either original Xbox or Xbox 360 games. Because there's a couple games that I'd love to do, like even if I didn't do playthroughs of, just to talk about them. And a heck of a lot more interesting than this game.
You want some fries with that whoop ass?
Some designs actually look pretty neat, but others not so much. And I understand you want a level of darkness in a game, but to this degree, it's just, you know, you're not seeing a lot of stuff.
You want some fries with that whoop ass?
This is on the emulator, so everything looks 10 times better than if it was on console. Depending on what type of TV you have, what kind of input, you know, you have the PlayStation on, I guess.
You want some fries with that whoop ass? You want some fries with that whoop ass?
withstand like a couple hits or whatever. But they just constantly block. It's crazy. If you want to make an enemy tough like that, just give him more health. Don't make him just sit there and block constantly. That's boring.
You want some fries with that whoop ass?
They had a weapons too, but Jax, like, he's got 4 attack moves, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So if it doesn't work on one of them, then it's not going to work. Oh, headshot. Oh, headshot. There we go. Nope.
You want some fries with that whoop ass?
Oh, me oh my. Zooming in on the bone textures. I had to make sure I was lined up right when I fell off of that, because there was a couple times during test runs where I wasn't really looking where I was going, and I would go to jump, and I would jump off. So this level, you know, you screw up. I mean, it takes like 15 minutes or something like that to play through. So you screw up and you have to go back, you know, it's another 15 minutes, which adds up pretty quick. Oh, teleport. Another teleport. Now, without a guide, how would you figure that out? You know, like that whole thing, like knowing where to go and where to find stuff. Like, how would you know that? Like, how would you know where to go? What they wanted you to do was just play the game, run around aimlessly for hours, which is basically what I did the first time I played through. Just run around for hours, get lost, and, you know, it's like they don't want you to win, obviously. There has to be a balance. Because you don't want it... You don't want it, like, super easy. But you don't want it so difficult that people are intimidated, like they're too intimidated to play it. Which I think some of these older PlayStation games, these older 3D games with no map, it can be a little intimidating. Nowadays, people don't want a mental challenge because they have enough of that in their lives already. So they just want to play a game and just have fun playing it. And games like this, it's like it's too much of a chore, which I get, I understand. So I'm trying to follow the path with the sniper rifle. I'm trying to follow the path that I'm supposed to take, and I'm taking out some of the guys along the path with the sniper rifle, basically to save myself some work. I wasn't so much afraid of fighting the guys. I was afraid of getting hit and being knocked off and having to redo this. So I got Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero for Christmas, and as bad as that game is, I can just imagine getting this for Christmas. Like, or what if like this is the only game that you had, you know? Like you got a PlayStation for Christmas and you're like, oh yeah, I like Mortal Kombat, and then your parents not really knowing what to buy or whatever, they just see, oh, Mortal Kombat Special Forces, that's Mortal Kombat, let's buy that. It's like this is all you had to play. Terrible. grow up hating everybody. I had to play Special Forces. Hey man, you played Tomb Raider or Silent Hill or Tekken? Nah, man. Been playing Mortal Kombat Special Forces. They're like, oh, is it any good? I don't recommend it. I don't play PlayStation. Play CDs in it, that's about it. Listen to whatever was cool in 2000. Pop that CD in. I'd much rather do that than play this game. You don't really see him, but you walk in and he's right up in your grill and he's gonna unload on you with that machine gun. That's great. Come on, Jax. You can do this. Thank goodness.
Well. If it isn't that pesky Special Forces grunt, come to seek revenge for all his troops. I am quite impressed. You have managed to defeat all of my Black Dragon members. Pity. They were all looking forward to restarting our little
Body
gang.
proportions just
Little did they know they were
It's
only
like nightmare
pawns to
fuel.
slow you down. And in that respect, they succeeded. You're too late, Jax. I have already reached the eye of Shitian. And soon, you will know its power. And, oh, delicious irony. You shall be the first to serve me.
The only thing I'm gonna serve you is a steel fist to your face, you delusional maniac. And after you get your pounding, I'm gonna haul your butt back to prison back home on Earth, where you won't have the aid of this overgrown light bulb. Sorry to burst your bubble, Kano, but the only thing you're gonna lord over is a porcelain throne in a 4x4 room.
Come on. Just get it over with. Finish it, please. Homing knife, because that's fair. So, if we've learned anything from this, it's long-range weapons during boss fights is a bad idea. absolutely nothing.
You want some fries with that whoop ass?
And that, folks,
I know exactly what I'm gonna do with this
Mortal
thing.
Kombat Special Forces. Trust me when I say there's nothing special about this game. If you're a hardcore MK collector, sure, why not? Get it? Same thing with MK Mythologies. It's playable, but feels to me I'd do something.
Jax to Gemini.
I'd do something more with your life, you know.
Jax, well, sounds to me like someone has made it all the way back home.
Oh yeah.
And here I am, like, talking about it. Thanks for playing Mortal Kombat Special Forces. They should have done more than just thanked you. They should have apologized. Like, thanks for playing Mortal Kombat Special Forces. We know it sucks. We apologize immensely. It should have been a disclaimer at the beginning of the game. So, not an enjoyable game. I played it just because I'm into Mortal Kombat, and just one of those things you had to play. A lot of worse games out there, though. I mean, we'll get around to talking about Shaq Fu one day, maybe. Thanks for watching this. If you actually sat down and watched the whole thing, that's amazing. I don't know why anybody would sit down and watch this. Playing it was bad enough, but I appreciate your support, and there'll be better games in the future. Maybe some shorter videos. I still have 2 videos that I have to finish. But, yeah. Alright, well, thanks, and everybody have a good day. Take care.